Life is yours for the taking. And don't squander the gift of not living up to your full potential because you simply won't even jot down a direction to get started in. What is up, Dynamis world? It's been a minute since I've done a solo episode, and I gotta tell you, I'm pretty excited to do it. I love these solo episodes. Before we get into it, I just want to let you guys all know that I find four-leaf clovers, and that's going to make more sense in a minute, I promise you. But I just got back from a wonderful weekend in Charleston, South Carolina with my wife, and we ate at some incredible restaurants. We walked around and looked at the beautiful historic houses. I love travel. I love traveling. I love going on adventures, and we just had an amazing time. You know, I've said many times before on this podcast, and I'm sure I'm going to continue to say it, but the path to financial freedom starts with a clear budget. You have to fully understand where every single dollar you earn is going. And if you don't know where your dollars go, they're going to find places to go on their own. The goal is to have a savings rate of a minimum of 20%. Now, saving is so important, not just financially, but also psychologically. It builds a mental discipline in us. As we build the habits that we need to also be careful to not go too far. Don't let money become your master. And I promise this little tangent is going to make sense in a minute. But a great way to free yourself from the idolatry of money is to simply just give it away. Give it openly and freely. If you think about it, it's actually kind of a radical idea. You become completely unchained from the norms of society. When money doesn't rule your choices, you become incredibly free. So give. Back to our saving. It's important to save, right? We've talked about saving. But sometimes it's also important to enjoy. And what I mean is, I personally usually pinch pennies wherever I can. But instead of pinching pennies on this recent trip to Charleston, South Carolina, instead of doing the normal thing that I do of finding the most affordable hotel in Charleston, we booked the Airbnb that we actually wanted to stay in with our friends. And I'm shifting to abundance here. We're going to talk slightly about abundance and how incredibly important abundance is. So we stayed in the Airbnb that we actually wanted to stay in with our friends. We sat in the hot tub. We stayed up late talking and laughing. These are close friends of mine from a time of war, a time when we're in the military and deploying and doing hard things. And we don't get to see these friends that often. And it was incredible to build new memories and laugh with each other. We ate the food that we wanted to eat guilt-free. Instead of circling the block looking for a parking space for free, cruising around, frustrated we can't find a space, we simply just pulled up and paid $20 valet for the convenience. We don't do this every weekend, but the difference it made in the memories of our trip was incredible. And we can always make more money, but we make money as a tool to build memories. And those memories that we made this weekend will last forever. And that's really what it's all about. I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage you with this. Before we really get into the heaviness of this episode, it's not too heavy, I promise. But I want to encourage you to set aside time for yourself. It's important to set aside time to think and let your mind wander. To carve out time for creativity is a similar process to your mind as restarting the computer, okay? The operating system is refreshed and oftentimes comes with a flood of ideas and thoughts. You have to take time to consider what you are doing and why you're doing it every single day. If you don't, you run the risk of falling into the trap of perpetuating patterns and habits without asking yourself if the way that you are doing something truly makes sense or is the most effective method to do it. You could get lost in the grind of repetition and look up 10 years from now only to realize that you took the wrong road. This is a problem that's easily fixable if only you would stop to consider your direction once in a while. Now, I love doing interviews on the podcast. I think there's so much value in them. But one of the most enjoyable aspects of this podcast for me was the ability to think and process my thoughts and recent lessons that I've learned. And I wanted to touch back on the spirit of that theme for this episode. If you aren't carving out time for yourself, start actively looking for a solution to fix that, as if the wasted purpose and potential of your life depended on it. Because guess what? It does. In fact, I want anyone listening to this episode to take some time and spend it alone in nature. Bring a journal and write your thoughts down. No phones, no Google, just a journal and your thoughts. And if you have a creative breakthrough, send me your takeaways. DM me on Instagram, send me your takeaways, and I will enter your name into a drawing for a gift. And it's pretty awesome. Okay, guys? Do it. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. Now, I felt that with the recent events that have been unfolding both globally and economically, I wanted to share how I'm navigating these uncertain times. And maybe sharing my outlook might help you with your own. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world and the market today. To sit here and tell you anything different would be an outright lie. We have the SVB bank failure, as well as a few others. The Federal Reserve is continuing to increase interest rates in an attempt to curb inflation. We have a government demanding praise for creating a stronger job market. Okay, we have a federal government who is demanding that we praise them for their incredible work of job creation, while we simultaneously have a Federal Reserve who is touting that they're going to continue to perpetuate economic hardship on hardworking Americans until we see a break in the labor market, essentially meaning they want a job loss recession. They want to create a recession that contributes to job loss. So which is it? We have a federal government saying they're creating more jobs than ever before, and we have a Federal Reserve saying we're not going to stop the pain until we see a job loss recession, until the labor market breaks. Mortgage applications are down 44% from a year ago. Housing inventory is in all-time lows, and the affordability today is atrocious. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad news, though. There are positives as well. We have higher incomes than we've ever had. Around 40% of private residences are owned free and clear. No mortgage. No mortgage. There's more equity in the market today than there's ever been before. I think that we are in a cycle that is unique, but no different fundamentally than any other cycle we have been through before. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear that the cyclical nature of economic peaks and valleys has been on a predictable pattern since we began tracking the data. Okay. Yes, durations and sizes vary, and the psychology of the cycles remain the same. There's no reason to doubt that these familiar ebbs and flows continue into perpetuity. I recommend reading a book called The Psychology of Money. I found it incredibly helpful in understanding our human reaction to these familiar cycles. It also helped me decide not to participate in recession or overabundance. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm not going to go through the same cycles that everyone else is. It's just that I'm opting out of the emotional roller coaster the world willingly participates in. We know how these cycles come and go, and yet I'm watching a clear separation of groups segregated by the belief that we are either all doomed or that this is going to be the greatest opportunity in our known economic history. The truth of the matter is that both sides are correct. I want to pause here because I think it's important to let you know that sometimes I get scared. Of course I do. I'm a human being. God created us to be emotional, but I allow myself to feel the emotion for a time, and then I start asking myself, why do I feel this way? It almost always comes down to a lack of control. As I deconstruct the feelings, I start to ask more productive questions. And wouldn't you know it, actionable paths forward start to present themselves. I ask myself, where's the opportunity? Where is no one looking while everyone is distracted in the same direction? Look, life is not always easy. In fact, there's almost a certain guarantee that the majority of our lives won't be easy. We've just gotten spoiled and softened by a prolonged false sense of security. So what do we do moving forward, looking at the possibility of the bumpy road that lays ahead? How can we not only keep playing this game we love, but play to win? Well, first and foremost, we keep going. We don't stop. We literally can't lose if we just never stop. Keep going. Troubled times are the best times to build market share. Second, to have an awareness of what we can control and what we cannot will become one of the fiercest weapons in our arsenal. Understand what we can control and take aggressive action to make the odds in our favor. Have the maturity to see what we have no control over and release the anxiety and worry we carry from it. The worry in no way serves us and is absolutely dead weight in a time when we need to be sleek and agile. In no circumstance do we ever make our greatest decisions in a worried or emotional state. So why would we think that this cycle would be any different? Release what we cannot control and be grateful for the gift of life we are living and the opportunity we are able to seek out and create. It's time to become undeniable. Now is the time to dig in and improve your position every single day. Sharpen your skills, your network, your mindset. Provide so much undeniable proof of your successful efforts that no human event can stand in the way of the opportunity you're creating. Trying times are a gift to us. They're forming us to step into the full scope of our potential we were created to display. Our psychology of the road ahead is what is going to deliver us sanctuary or destruction. Mindset. Your mindset is everything right now. Work on harnessing it. What you barely whisper to yourself becomes true. And I'll say this about the market cycles that lay ahead. Whether you think that this is going to be a bull market or a bear market, whether you think you're going to lose money or make money, you are absolutely right. Be careful what you look for because I guarantee you're going to find it. I recently went for a walk with a really good friend of mine on the last day of our trip to Charleston. We went and saw these old historic war sites, and we just talked. We contemplated, what are our goals? What is the opportunity in the future? What are we working for? And we were walking through this beautiful field overlooking the absolutely stunning coastline. The beaches out there are just so gorgeous. And we walked into a grass field overlooking this historic bunker. And we happened to find ourselves in a grass field full of clover in the grass. And we were kind of looking down at the grass, and my friend made an offhanded comment about finding a 4-leaf clover, to which immediately, without even thinking, I just responded to him, dude, I've never found a 4-leaf clover in my life, ever. I just put myself in a category of I'm not a person who's going to find a 4-leaf clover. But we had been in proximity to each other all weekend long, and we had really been feeding off of a positive mindset, positive energy. We were talking about the power of words, the power of our mindset. And I know that this may sound a little crazy to some of you who don't practice this or practice manifestation, but I stopped myself. And all these tourists are gathered around us, and there's people, there's tourists and people walking by, and audibly, like out loud, I said, no. I stopped myself in the cycle of saying that I'm a person that's never found a 4-leaf clover, therefore I will never find a 4-leaf clover. I put my head up, my chest back, and with gumption, with belief, with full conviction, I said out loud that I am a person who regularly finds 4-leaf clovers. I bent down, I put my fingers into the grass and plucked a clover. And I am not kidding you, as I raised it back up and looked at it, I saw a 4-leaf clover. And here's the crazy thing. I expected to see that 4-leaf clover before I pulled it out of the grass. Because when I said that I'm a person who finds 4-leaf clovers, I believed it. And I don't really know what was different about that instance than any other time, other than the fact that I just committed my identity to being somebody who does this thing. And sure enough, I found it. And I took that 4-leaf clover and I made a note of it in my journal as proof of me being a person who is what I say I am, who does what I say I'm going to do. And I put it into my journal, and it's this very special memento I have. And it kind of made me think of this other thought while we were out there in South Carolina. I was sitting on the couch one night just reviewing notes that I had written down to myself about a year ago. And I started thinking about note taking. And what I found in some of my past journal entries in my notes blew me away. I honestly was almost speechless at what I found. And I'll share what I found in just a second, but I want to share some stats with you guys. Research has shown that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you're written down. How many of you out there are listening and are just going through life every day? You wake up and you're going through life without putting any thought into the direction that you're heading. You're not considering your happiness. You're not considering if whether or not you're living up to the full potential that you believe you were created to achieve. You're just simply on autopilot. Are you setting goals? Have you ever spoken to yourself that I want my life to look like this? And if you have you written it down? Because research has shown 42%, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals if they're written down. And did you know that less than 3% of Americans write down their goals? Less than 1% work on their goals every day by reviewing and, if necessary, rewriting them. I started reading my journal entry from about a year ago, and my journal entries are kind of like these podcasts. They're really just kind of free-flowing ideas, and later on I come back. Sometimes I expand upon these bullet points and ideas, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just reread them and see where my mind was wandering. And the first sentence I wrote in a journal entry from about a year ago is, I'm curious. I want to look into the correlation between how many exceptional and above average people take notes of their creative flow, of the time that they set aside to think and let their mind wander. And then I asked myself a question. Is there a correlation between doers and writing down the notes and thoughts? So I'm asking myself, are successful people more likely to write down their ideas? But then below that question was a series of bullet points. The bullet points were all over the board. There were things like, I want to start making my own reels on social media that are motivational, that are based in mindset and coaching, based on financial freedom and education. Next bullet point, I want to create a podcast. Next bullet point, I want to start a meetup and build community, meaningful community in my local area. Next bullet point, next bullet point. Down the line, I realized that every single bullet point, some of which I didn't even remember writing, I had achieved. It absolutely blew my mind how powerful just simply writing down a goal and forgetting about it was. Write your goals down. I'm talking to you right now. Go write your goals down and look at them every single day. Here's the truth. We're a quarter of the way through 2023. And ask yourself, are you on track? Have you planned your next 12 weeks? Are you working toward the execution of that better life? Because the truth is that life is yours for the taking. And don't squander the gift of not living up to your full potential because you simply won't even jot down a direction to get started in. I'm talking to you, Dynamis audience. Go write your goals down. Write them down and start executing on them today. Today, not tomorrow, today. Because there is no time like the present to take charge of your life and start moving in a meaningful direction. Guys, I hope that you're getting value out of this show. My goal for this show is to set you free, is to help armor you with a mindset that will carry you into the next level, into the full version of yourself that God created you to be, the full potential, unleashed, unharnessed version of yourself that you can be to go create and build anything, to build this amazing world that we all deserve to share in. And if you are getting value, if you're getting value from this podcast, I only ask for one thing. There's one small fee, one small task. Pay the tax. Like this podcast. Give me a review. Tell your friends to listen. Share the show. Share your ideas. Again, if you're local, as I've said before, and you want to get together in the power of proximity and community, come out to our Pints and Properties. There's a link in my bio, or you can find it in the show notes. Get signed up. Just figure out where we're going to meet, what we're doing, and come be in our proximity. ideas grow like two separate flames brought together. They grow exponentially. I hope all you killers are moving in a direction that is going to lead you to the accomplishment of your goals and dreams and aspiration. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. We will catch you on the flip side.